So, Bob, when you look at the entire team in regards to both offense, defense, special teams, and of course, you've covered some of these concerns already. Give us both ends of the spectrum in terms of standout guys this spring, but also maybe some areas on the team in addition to the wide receiver position that you already covered that you've got some concerns about.
Well, right now they're super banged up at tight end. They've had one guy left the team for medical reasons. They had two others that are injured. I think they're both shoulder injuries or both arm or shoulder injuries. So kind of quirky thing there. And then they had to move two defensive guys over to tight end to help there. So that's a position right now, 2 years removed from Kyle Pitts. That's just in a whole different scenario. They had Kamora Gamble who transferred out at the end of last season. So, I mean, he was a starter last year and he's gone. So it's a big changeover in that room and they're searching for things. I think Louisiana, they use the tight end, but not very much. They put them on the field, but they're not huge targets for them. Their numbers, receptions were pretty low. So, that's a spot I think they really like their starting offensive line, and they actually have probably two guys behind the starters that are pretty strong. But beyond that, I think they need to find another one or two guys that can make sure that they have 8 or 9 solid players along the offensive line. If you talk about needs and necessities, and the biggest thing, I think, defensive tackle. Gervon Dexter's an all SEC level guy. He came in as a 5-star prospect. This is his third year. Last year, he had 51 tackles from the interior of the defensive line, which is the most in the last 13 years, more than anybody but Jonathan Bullard at that position. And they've had some really good ones like Sharif Floyd and Dominic Easley and guys like that along the way. But he had the second most of any of those guys in the last 13 years. So he's a player, but if he doesn't have somebody next to him, he's going to get double teamed all day. And that's not a good thing. And honestly, they need to find two guys, or they need to figure out with the guys they have on roster who can play next to him, because you need some depth. That's a tough position. You can't just leave guys out there all day and do their thing. I think they're really solid on the edges on defensive line. I think they're actually really good. Honestly, I think they have all SEC talent on both edges. With Brenton Cox has probably played the best of any defender this year. He's listed as basically an outside linebacker, but he's really a pass rusher most of the time. And then I think the most improved unit on the team, as far as what I'm hearing and just the general talk, is probably inside linebacker, which they've recruited pretty well there. They just, for whatever reason, I think it was system based for some reason. But I think that's a room that's really going to improve. Tackling has been just awful for 2+ years at Florida. And, that is a position that the Jay Bateman, who came in from North Carolina, is a guy that talked about that the other day. That was their thing when they got here. They said, you guys just got to tackle better, because they're there to make the play. They just don't bring the play, the running, whoever's carrying the ball down. So that's the big thing. And I think the secondary is going to make, I said that linebackers are the most improved, but I guess I would include them necessarily in the back seven and say at that as a group, as a whole group of the back seven is going to be really improved. With Corey Raymond coaching the corners and Patrick Toney, the defensive coordinator, coaching the safeties. I think the communication there is going to be highly improved. Actually just wrote about that. That's going to get posted later today. So, I think when you're talking about strengths of the team, I think running backs have to be up there. If Anthony Richardson is dialed in as far as getting to a second and third read, I think he's got to be way up there. And I think I kind of have to split up the defensive line, but I think the defensive ends are a super strength of this team, with the defensive tackles not being the opposite right now. So